Well, it's almost the new year. And you know what? My question is, are you going to be someone? Are you going to be someone who has a legacy that's good or bad? Well, we're going to talk about Jim Crane's legacy and what will it be ultimately when the chapter closes on his ownership years from now. Will he be a guy that saw the stars walk away, or will he be seen as a genius or a mad scientist? Let's talk about it right now.
Jainel Diaz, this is Locked On Astros.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Astros, your daily Astros podcast. Here are your hosts, Eric the Man Huysman and Brett H-Town Wheelhouse Chancey.
We are Locked On Houston Astros, and we hope that you join us for a daily Locked On Astros podcast. My name is Eric Huysman. You can find me on X at Eric Talks Astros. You can find the show at Locked On Astros, your team every day. Brett, where can I find you at?
They can find me at H-Town Wheelhouse on X, Instagram, and TikTok. They can find me at Stros411 on X and on Facebook, and they can find me at Back to the Bullpen on X, on Instagram. You can find me on YouTube and iHeartRadio. And hey, that's Stros411. That's Stros with the Z. So check us out. We got some people coming up. I mean, Locked On Astros is featured there. Astros Future. We got all kinds of content there. Check us out. Look, I'm excited about the season, Eric. It's getting closer and closer. We're getting closer to pitchers and catchers reporting, but I'm excited that you're back on the mic and feeling a little bit better, sir. Welcome back.
Just a little bit better. But guys, thank you for making us your first listen on Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast. Go and make us your first listen. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, because right now new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets. Wow, that went up in your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started today.
So, Eric, if you miss another show, maybe it'll go up to $350, and FanDuel will come knocking at your door saying we want our money back. No.
Yeah. So, guys, I've had pneumonia for about almost 2 weeks now, and so I've been trying to get over it. I might have to pause the mic every once in a while because if I talk, I go on this coughing spell and everything. But thank you for all the well wishes for everybody that's been sending messages. I've done a couple shows where afterwards I went right to bed just because it took all my energy. But guys, this is the interesting part. This is kind of where we're going to see what happens next. But we wanted to take a little bit in between Christmas and the New Year's. Of course, we're going to do our New Year's resolution. What should the Astros do next year? But we want to look at a lot of what Scott Boras said, and we want to look at what Jim Crane's policy is. And we want to kind of reflect who's right. Who's right in this situation? Is Jim Crane right, or is Scott Boras right? We have to understand that Scott Boras does work for the players. He doesn't work for Astros fans. He doesn't work for baseball fans and in general. He works for the player. He wants to make the most amount of money. And so Jim Crane, he's working for, I hate to say this, he is trying to do what's best for Astros fans.
Right.
But at the same time, he's trying to do what's best for his pocketbook. And so let's go ahead and put out there. This is what I know you've already mentioned it on one of the shows, but this is what Scott Boras said. Over time, teams learn if you're running from leadership and talent, you're running from the ultimate goal. And this is what this is not something new. This is what Jim Crane has said over the past 4 or 5 years. He said that but this is what he actually said. Dana's been handling the negotiations, and he also said a very high percentages of long-term contracts normally do not work. That's why he doesn't go beyond 5. He was willing to go to that 6 year for Alex Bregman because who Alex Bregman is. And Dana Brown did say they made a very competitive offer. And I'm going to say that competitive offer was on par with what other teams were offering. But Scott Boras. Scott Boras has said, ooh, look what the Astros are doing. If you want to stop the Astros, you got to do this. And Dana Brown was probably just like, you know what? I'm done with this. I'm done with this.
Y-
Let me show you what I got.
Well, in the Christian Walker press conference, Eric, I don't know how much of it that I don't know how much of it that you got to see or hear the comments from in the leading up to this show. But one of the things that Dana Brown talked about was, we made a competitive offer to Bregman, but once we knew that his either price range or years range was far away from us, we had to make a move somewhere. We couldn't sit back and wait anymore. John brings up an important point. He said Jim Crane brought Houston 2 championships. Both Crane and Boras are looking at their pocketbooks as well. Look, at the end of the day, boys and girls, this is a money game. We are in an inflated market. We are in a market that you had Shohei Ohtani and Juan Soto in back-to-back years sign ridiculously long contracts that don't actually work out for the club in the long run. Now, in the short term, it may yield them championships, so on and so forth. But the return on investment, who knows? Their markets are probably big enough that they can absorb any losses because it's going to ultimately mean gains for them, correct? So here's where I'm going with this. Jim Crane has had a successful formula, and it has worked. If you go through and you dissect every 10-plus year done in Major League Baseball, there's only been 1 or 2 where players have been on successful teams, on teams that have gone on to win a championship. You can now add Shohei Ohtani to that deal because they won a title with him on there. I think the Dodgers were strong enough. They probably could have won without Ohtani in the World Series because he didn't do a ton in the World Series. But realistically, fans, your owner is actually looking out for the team's best interest. And I know we say Jim Crane's cheap, this and that, but if you look at it, return on investment, and you look at declining years, you look at declining athleticism, we don't want to be strapped to someone in his 7th year for $33 or $35 million. Now, I say that, and we're strapped to Altuve, and 30 plus million in his last 2 years. But the difference is Jose Altuve has pretty much been injury free. He plays second base. You can also transfer him to being a second baseman and a DH when he gets a little older in age. He's got a lot more versatility, and that's the one guy you break the mold for. I don't mind Jim Crane's avenue or the road he's taken, but I think they stood up to Boras. And look, this is what I think is going to happen. You're going to see a lot of Boras's clients go into spring training not signed. I mean, you got Corbin Burns, Eric, wanting $245 million. Now, what does that mean for someone like Framber Valdez? I think the Astros should try to re-sign him. I know I've been trade, but they clearly are keeping him. They clearly are in a win now mode. Will Jim Crane make another deal like he did with Lance McCullers and give him something more? Because if Framber Valdez goes out and has a very good season, he's going to be asking between 180, 200 million for his contract. And how many years? Because he is 32, I believe. So I think the Astros did the right thing standing up to Boras. I think Boras thought the Astros would give in, but right now it's a battle of wills. And I think we did a pretty good job putting 60 plus home runs potential at first and third base for 2025.
Yeah. And I think that when Dana Brown said we made a competitive offer, I really think that they rose up to what Boras and Bregman wanted. It just, Boras is trying to get the best offer. And so I think that the Astros did do what they could. And at a certain point, they said, enough is enough. We got to draw the line here. That's what I've been saying. And there's a risk in any contract. There's a risk in a 3-year deal. And that's what the Astros found out with Jose Abreu, Rafael Montero. There's risk in any contract, no matter the length. And just what Jim Crane has found out is that if you sign these long-term deals, even somebody as good at the time as Albert Pujols, the back end of the deal is not always going to be as good as the front end of the deal, because players regress over time, and you just don't know what you're going to get. And so that's why you see a lot of the Jim Crane's deals, no more, even for Jose Altuve, no more than 5 years. So, guys, we'll go ahead and continue this conversation. Thank you for making Locked On Astros podcast your first listen every day.
The NFL playoffs are among us, and the regular season is nearing a close, but it doesn't mean it's too late for you to get involved with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's right, $250 in bonus bets. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up the W. I love betting on which players will score a touchdown, how many points each team will score. It's thrilling. It's great because they're in the app. They have everything you need. You don't have to go to multiple websites. You just get a hunch during the game, and you can bet on which players will score a touchdown, how many points each team will score, and so much more. Just visit FanDuel.com and join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Hey guys, thank you for making Locked On Astros podcast your first listen every day. Whether it's on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to us and make us your first listen on Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast. Go ahead and check us out. And you can go ahead and watch us on your big screen TV. Just go and on your Amazon Fire TV stick. Just go and search free channels. Just go and search baseball, Houston, and you could watch Brett and I on your big screen. So I know that we've been talking a lot about Jim Crane and Scott Boras. I don't know if we'll know. I know that Jim Crane in his time, the Astros have won 2 World Series. This is something that no other owner in Astros history can say. But all people think about is, I can't wait till Jim Crane sells the team, and so we could get somebody in here that will pay these free agents, because we're tired of losing all these guys. We've lost Carlos Correa, George Springer. But if you look at these players, they've gone on to other teams and they haven't been as good. Garrett Cole has been okay with the Yankees. He's had some great seasons. He's had some okay seasons. Carlos Correa has been okay, but he hasn't been worthy of his contract, so to speak.
Right.
But George Springer, he has not been at all what the Blue Jays paid for.
Oh, no. Well, hey, one of the things I want to mention, because I saw a little snippet of Jason Bristol and Jeremy Booth do a Astros podcast, and Booth, him and I don't always agree, don't always see eye to eye, but he does have some insight on the industry that I don't think a lot of people have. And what I think he mentioned is really telling for what happened with the Alex Bregman negotiations is this. I think that when Dana Brown said we made a competitive offer, he probably, and I agree with Booth on this, he probably upped his offer. And he's not telling you what he upped it to. Like, there were rumors that they upped it to 180. There were rumors that he upped it to 189. But there's nothing being told publicly. And if that's not a public offer, Boras isn't going to say, well, we're not going to take your upped offer of such and such. And so I think the Astros did make a push to bring Bregman back. And Bregman is stuck on that 7th year or that $200 million. And right now you have the Tigers that are still in the mix. Because I told you earlier, Eric and I were talking about Gleyber Torres going to the Tigers. I think the Tigers, the Red Sox, and don't sleep on the Mets. Don't be surprised if they re-sign, or if they get Bregman. It doesn't sound like the Mets are going to re-sign Pete Alonso, because it sounds like there's about an $80 to $90 million gap between what he wants and what they want to give him. So the inflated market, Chris Moreno even mentioned, there's an inflated market. There was an inflated market. And I've talked about that since the beginning of all this stuff, where Boras overvalues his clients. Yes, the clients work. I mean, yes, the agent works for the clients, Eric, but the agent's job is to, if I'm your agent, Eric, and you say, you know what, I'm worth 28 million. I'm going to say, what do you mean? You're leaving 6 million on the table. You're worth 34 million.
Right.
Oh, really? Yeah. Well, let me show you why. And then we go to the club and we go to him with a $36 million offer. And I think that's how it works. Yes, the agent work for you, Eric, if you're the player. But at the end of the day, the agent has got to set that high tone, has got to set that high standard, because sometimes those players may undervalue themselves. But then again, I think this whole Soto thing, I think that disrupted everything.
Yeah. So I have this baseball card right here. It's a very thick Craig Biggio autograph. It's
Love
like
it.
super thick. That's one card. So how much is this card worth? It depends on how much somebody will pay for it, right? And that's what's
true.
going on. That's going on with the market for Alex Bregman. It's how much somebody will pay for it. And that's what Scott Boras is trying to see. It's basically eBay. Okay, how much are we going to be able to get for this Craig Biggio card? And so that's what I was saying earlier. I think that Dana Brown did make his best attempt, and he probably went up from that 6 years, 156 million. And I really think that they really went up to the level, and Scott Boras used that information to say, hey, this is what the Astros were offering, and you need to top this. And the Astros just said, look, we're done. And so they moved on to Christian Walker. They already got they kind of added to the leverage by getting Isaac Paredes. That was another thing that they did. So I think that the Astros were already kind of leery of working with Scott Boras. And then, so does this mean that the Astros aren't going to win another World Series because Alex Bregman is not here? That's going to be the question mark, because you could say Jim Crane, he is the owner. He's had a big hand in making this team.
Yeah.
But throughout this whole winning process, Alex Bregman has been here. And so this whole winning window. So we know what it's like to play without Kyle Tucker, because he missed most of the season last year.
Yeah.
But we don't know what it's like to play without Alex Bregman. And that's what the Astros are going to have to deal with over the next several seasons without him, until somebody really, especially until Isaac Paredes goes away, then they have to replace him. But what the Astros did was they didn't wait around. Normally in the past, they've waited around. Oh, let's wait. Maybe Carlos Correa will decide to come back to us. Maybe George Springer will decide to come back to us. Maybe Garrett Cole will decide to come back to us. And then all the other guys go away. But the Astros didn't play checkers this time. They went ahead and played chess, and they made their moves, and they got the player that they wanted. And like you said in the last podcast, Christian Walker wanted to come here. He thought that this would be a good place for him to play. Dude. And he wanted the barbecue. He wanted the barbecue scene.
I was so impressed, Eric. I was so impressed with what he said. And, you know, I talked to Mike Stanton about it last night on Back to the Bullpen. And, you know, Mike said, look, he said all the right things. He said Christian Walker is a smart Major League Baseball player. He's a quality Major League Baseball player. I mean, when's the last time we've had a Gold Glove power hitting first baseman? It's been a long time. It's been a while. And when's the last time we had a first baseman that could hit 30 plus home runs? And Eric, I've chronicled this, and I think it was on a solo show, and I don't know if you've seen it, but where his home ballpark was in Arizona, it was 9th worst in production for home runs. And Minute Maid Park, or Daikin Park, is 7th best in home run production. And we got the short porch in left field. So I really think that this is going to benefit Christian Walker. You've got a guy that comes in and immediately says, I can't wait to play alongside and learn from future Hall of Famer Jose Altuve. That's massive. He says, I know who the king of the court is. I know who the face of the franchise is. And he is a pro's pro. I have heard nothing but great things about him inside the clubhouse, leadership-wise, and he's got some rewards that will be afforded to him if he gets ALCS MVP, if he gets World Series MVP, if he wins a Gold Glove, if he wins a Silver Slugger. And so he's got some extra incentives to continue to do what he's doing, Eric. And so I'm excited. And that's what I think we're not talking about here is, yes, Crane is not willing to re-sign his stars to mega deals. But we got Christian Walker, 3 years, $60 million. This guy's a 30-plus home run Gold Glove guy. Should have easily garnered could have easily, I think, even at his age, could have gone 25 to 30 million because of what is out there and what's available, right? It's about supply and demand. And I just think you guys and girls are going to be excited. And look, left field, we'll talk about this next segment. Left field, Eric, Dana Brown's talked about DeCenzo having a shot in left field in spring training.
Yeah, guys, Jim Crane's legacy is still TBA, but right now he has brought 2 World Series to Houston. So for right now, it's up. So guys, we'll continue this conversation next on the Locked On Astros podcast.
This episode is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Game Time is an amazing app. You download the app today, use a promo code LOCKEDONMLB, and get $20 off your first purchase. Terms to apply. I can tell you this, tonight, my son and I are going to the Houston Rockets, and I got an amazing deal. I got not floor level, but lower level seats, $89 all in pricing for each ticket. And right now, if you go on the app, you go on today, you can find some of the same deals. You can wait till tip off to buy those tickets, walk into Toyota Center. So go to Game Time and check out their super deals, their seat views, their lowest price guaranteed. I mean, they have the best coverage and most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. This is what you do. You download the Game Time app, you create an account, use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms to apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. LOCKEDONMLB. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time.
Hey guys, thank you for making Locked On Astros podcast your first listen. Whether it's on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to us. Make us first listen on Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast. Go ahead and check us out. And yes, I totally like the idea about DeCenzo playing left field. I know he hasn't done it a lot in the minors, but this is something that I think especially in left field, you have a situation where you have the Crawford boxes. You just have to be able to take the rebounds off that and play it well. And also, we don't want Mauricio Dubon being stuck to one position. His valuableness comes from being able to play all over the diamond. And you don't want to just have him play one position. You want him to just play all over the diamond. So I do agree that you need to give some other guys. I know at some point Jacob Melton will get a chance. I think Pedro Leon will get a chance, depending on what happens during spring training.
Yeah, definitely. Look, at the end of the day, I really like what we're doing with the infield. The outfield, Eric, just really bothers me with the lack of moves or the amount of trust. And I've told you what I want Chaz and Jake to do in order to make this a successful outfield. I still think you can go out and get someone like Profar. Look, if you wait until January, if Bregman waits, whoever's waiting until January, each day after December 31st, that price tag goes down for the ball club to pay, because that means clubs are not knocking down your door and the demand is not there. There are a ton of relief pitchers, okay? And one of the things I didn't realize until I looked into it, I actually talked to Mike about different relief pitchers because he used to be one. AJ Minter may not be so desirable, Eric, because he's been roughed up by the Astros. I think he's had a rough time in Minute Maid Park in the playoffs too. But there are a lot of things, a lot of avenues that the Astros can take. I think if they get a complimentary piece to go in the outfield and they don't have to pay an arm and a leg, they do that. But you have to give DeCenzo an opportunity to compete. You can't just have these minor league guys sitting here and just running on a treadmill in AAA, back and forth, AAA, Major League, AAA, Major League. DeCenzo is young. DeCenzo's got power. He's a strong kid. He has the ability to field. He can hit the ball. Who knows? Maybe you catch lightning in a bottle. Maybe you see Melton shine in spring training. You say, okay, come June or July, we are calling this kid up. And so Spring training is that time, but before spring training, I would like to see Jim Crane sign at least another outfield arm to compete, even if it's a Jason Hayward, even if it's someone like a Gamble. Someone said Gamble went overseas. Actually, he's still here. Trey Cabbage went overseas to play in Japan, not being. But Eric, and I just want to say this on Crane's legacy, he is the greatest owner in Astros history. No owner has done more to improve a ball club. No owner has done more to put their stamp and create a city that identifies with its baseball team more than Jim Crane. You literally have an argument even right now as the Texans are flailing in the NFL regular season. They have lost their identity from last year, and people are constantly saying that's why this has always been a baseball town. Now, Houston's been a football town for years and years, but who's changed that trajectory and that image? It's Jim Crane. So call him a cheapskate. Call him what you want. But you have 2 World Series titles in recent years. You have an amazing run. This guy was extorted by Major League Baseball and told you have to go to the American League before we approve the sale to you. The Astros were in the National League. Now, I'm thankful for the American League now because how tough the National League is. But Jim Crane's been through it all. He's been there, done that, got the T-shirt. Let them work. Let the Astros do their thing. I think we're going to have a successful year. The AOS is going to be fun to play in this next year.
One thing to kind of end the show, a little something to ponder. Remember last year when they they took Alex Bregman out and they basically handed the keys of third base to Shea Whitcomb. Of course, Shea Whitcomb went on to have the 4 errors in the game. And but how is he going to feel? Like, he was the minor league hitter of the year last year. He's had 35 home runs in 2023. Last year, he had 25 home runs in the minor leagues. Now he's ready. The Astros thought he was ready last year to kind of make that next step. He came up. Now, at this point, it doesn't look like there's a spot for him unless he can learn how to play the outfield, because you have Paredes for the next 3 years. You have Walker for the next 3 years, and you have somebody playing DH most of the time in Alvarez, because he's not going to be playing a lot of left field. So the only way for Whitcomb to get any playing time is going to be through the outfield. So that's going to be another thing that I'm sure the Astros are going to look at the spring training.
Yeah, definitely. I just the Houston Astros, Eric, it's going to be an interesting season. There's going to be some highs and there's going to be some lows. And I think what we need to think about going into this season, going into the off season, is, you know, how great Arrighetti was, you know, how great Brown was, how great Ronell was. How are they going to do this year? I think Brown has it in him to do it. Arrighetti, but they're still young. Blanco, he's going to have to do it for a second season in a row. Your one stalwart for sure bet, I think, is Framber Valdez, because he's your durable guy. But what are the other guys going to do? And then you have Wisniewski, who is going to compete for a starting position because Dana Brown said they want him to be a starter. Luis Garcia won't come back till May. So there's a couple question marks in the starting rotation. But the bigger question is then also relief pitching. I think the Astros infield is locked. I think their starting rotation is above average. But it's the bullpen and it's the outfield where you have a lot of question marks. Does this team have enough veteran presence in Altuve, Alvarez, Pena, and now I would say Valdez to go out there and really, truly compete to be one of the top teams, not just in the AOS, but one of the top teams in 2025.
And a little question, like, when did we start doing fireworks on Christmas Eve? Like, I was coming back from Katy, from my fiance's sister's house, and the whole way it was like fireworks down in Houston. And is this a new thing? I've never seen fireworks.
You know what? I heard the same thing. I was about to call the police department because I thought someone was having a shootout here in League City. I was hearing I was like, that's a little consistent. That sounds like a little semi-automatic action, right? I didn't know what was going on. I guess, I don't know, maybe people celebrate Christmas Eve with fireworks. Maybe it was Chris Moreno and his crew. Maybe they were battling other podcasters. I don't know, but yeah, that is a little strange.
By the way, they did change the rule in League City about fireworks, so it is now legal 2 times a year to shoot
It
fireworks.
is
On
wow.
July
I guess
4th.
they got tired of.
Yeah.
Hey, I will tell you this funny story
Yeah.
real quick. We had someone come by. I won't say if it was police or fire, because I respect both of them. But one of them came by. My neighbors were setting off children's firecrackers, like little baby fireworks. They took all the kids' fireworks, and when they left, neighbors on both sides were launching bottle rockets and freaking shower things. I was like, that girl was crying, and those dudes were like celebrating. I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah, I think they got tired of all the calls.
But people were just pulling over on the side of freeways just to watch the fireworks at midnight. I'm like, I'm tired. I want to get home. That's all I want. So, okay, guys, that's all we got for this edition of Locked On Astros podcast and Locked On Fireworks. We'll be back next on Sunday to look ahead to some New Year's resolutions for the Astros in 2025 and what do the Astros need to do. And we want to thank y'all for helping 2024 be a great year for Locked On Astros podcast, for me, for Brett, for all the guests that we've had. Thank you for all the support and continued support in 2025. So, guys, thank you for making us first listen on Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, and we'll see you on Sunday. And, Brett, what do we always say?
Go Stros.
See you later.
That went by quick.